Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, Nollywood actress Lizzie Anjorin attributed the recent wave of domestic violence to poverty. Speaking via her social media page, she said, "Do you pray for your uncle, brother, father to spend their lives in prison, or do you wish your mother or sister died in the hands of any man? Before we kill domestic violence, we need to kill domestic animal in us. Some of us can't tolerate our house help, in-laws, not to talk of partners. A broke husband is not different from a madman. He's an evil to himself, and his demanding wife is a witch in disguise." Do you agree with this? It's Your View. Call us on 07080668014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag Your View TVC so we can read your tweets. Right. So this statement, generally, I think she just asked you that, is poverty really the root of domestic violence? Do you think it has a place in...
She said a lot of things that made a lot of sense, makes a lot of sense, in the fact that she said that a poor man is equal to a madman who would see the wife as a witch. And that's what happens in most cases. When you talk to people that have been involved in domestic violence, it's mostly, they just see the woman as, this woman is my cause of my problem one way or the other. I think that there's a place of, when you don't have money, every single issue you face, the only resource you have probably is your strength as a man. So you confront it by fighting or with aggression to try and overcome that feeling of insecurity that I cannot be the man in this house. And so they need to be handled with extra care. That doesn't say that there are not people that are rich that are involved in domestic violence, but we seem to be seeing a lot of people
because
that are...
For me sometimes, but don't you feel that it's more of the mentality of the parties involved? Because money is not really about the loose cash, or the wealth is not so much about the loose cash. It's about if you are comfortable in who you are, regardless of you don't have the physical cash, if you're content with the little you earn and you have the right mindset, you can still live a happy domestic violence free life. You don't think so?
I wish it was that easy. Yesterday, myself and Jumoke, we met a friend of ours, and she said, domestic violence, we're going to a conference, join us and let's go. And so we had this conversation, and he said something profound. He said that domestic violence is just starting. It will not end. It will continue. And you know, that struck us. So we listened to him. He said, because the situation is prevailing. The economic situation right now is not getting any better. And the truth is that the tougher it is for a person to meet daily needs, provide for your family, food, shelter, basic needs, daily. Your child will go to school, pay school fees. These are important needs that you meet. On a minimum salary or income of about 18,000, imagine that you have to continue to do this over time. With time, the person will just, before you know it, develop mental issues that you did not foresee. Because it's not about mentality, it is about the needs being there and your inability to continue to meet them.
Needs are relative. Needs and wants are relative. Your basic needs, you have somewhere that you're living. You can actually, you might not be able to afford a 3-course meal, but you can at least get by. You see, I personally feel that it's not so much about your financial situation that makes you susceptible to domestic violence. I believe strongly it's about the mindset of the parties involved. Let me hear why.
I think money aggravates it.
Well, money can aggravate it, but you see, it depends on who the person is. There's some people that money will not aggravate. There's some people who don't have money, yet money is not the all in all for them. So I think it depends. I think that's relative. But let me let YK come in here. What are your thoughts on this? Thinking that domestic violence?
I think, for me, before I will talk about domestic violence, I'll talk about people being physically violent to each other. Right. A lot of people do it, and I think it is actually not just, it is innate in the person.
Right.
You have a bullying nature. You have a superior complex.
Yes.
Superiority complex. So people who have these tendencies are the people who tend to be violent domestically or even physically. Because I will give you, just from my own personal, my dancers, they bully the younger ones. And they will just pass. Okay, why are you slapping her? Because you are her senior? I don't understand. Why are you slapping her? You don't have the rights. Do you understand?
That's their disposition.
That's their disposition. Just because I'm your senior, pass, take that.
Right.
So that doesn't have to do with money.
That has nothing to do with
Exactly.
money.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is
what
that
is
it
innate.
aggravates it. So when you have, like she said, what Lisa Jerry mentioned was that if you are a poor person, your wife bringing regular needs to you, you now see the person like it's a witch because you can't afford it. Okay, I want money. Where would I get the money from?
Let me take this call from Gideon. Gideon, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, join the conversation. Let's hear your views.
All right, yes, I saw your topic. I actually watched the rebroadcast yesterday night and I decided to call into the show this morning.
Right.
Well, as for domestic violence, can we say, I want to ask, what is the definition of poverty? Poverty is not just a state of not having money. Poverty is a state of the mind. And like someone said, I think it was Pastor Samade that said one time, he said, a lot of people are working hard, but they are not working smart.
Right.
Now, as for domestic violence, as Yenya and Nicola Pokuti has said, is a thing of the mind. It's when you see someone who is, you feel she's lower than you, or he's lower than you. It's not just about poverty. Before God blessed my parents to be wherever they are now, we knew what it was, eating eba in the morning and okra at night, eating all those kind of things. But my father never laid hands on my mother. And they have been married for almost 30 years right now. And then I think another thing is we need our religious circles to begin to hammer this thing,
right,
both in the church, in the mosque, in the shrine, or wherever they go.
Right.
It is bad, very bad for a pastor or an imam.
Thank you very much, Gideon. I think you made the strong point that defining poverty itself is just a state of mind.
Exactly.
There is poverty of the mind.
Right.
Let's assume that Lisa Anjorin knows this, but she's talking about poverty of money, lack of it. The woman, for instance,
that's a comfortable assumption.
No, I'm just saying, just to forward an argument. The woman, for instance, would have come and say, okay, we need cups in the house. Let's say cup is the most basic things. And she said, we need cups in the house. And the husband says, okay, I don't have the money. She puts it aside. She comes back in another week. The need for the cup is still there. So the emphasis she lays on it becomes a nag in the man's ears. And the lack of providing it will make her continue to ask for it. It's not because she's a witch, but like she said in the tweet, she'll come around to be like, you must be a problem. You are a witch or something. Do you understand? The truth is that this in a situation where, let me say like an hypothesis, where a situation where this exists, it's what she's saying is very apt and very correct.
Okay, let me take this call from Pastor Adeyeye. Are you there, Pastor Adeyeye?
Pastor Adeniyi.
Adeniyi, sorry about that. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
The major sponsor of domestic violence is wrong relationship. Wrong relationship. Marry without being compatible. That's a major, and until we deal with that, the Bible says when the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? So the major problem is wrong people marry themselves. That is so how they will give back to violence. That is how it is. God bless you.
Thank you very much. You had a tweet you wanted to say?
Yes. Official Abore says, domestic violence has nothing to do with poverty. It's the mentality thing. Why not channel those anger and grievance towards making a life? Bayo Magwemi says, most men feel that the way to react to adversary is to be strong physically. Most of us aren't taught otherwise. And this tweet just puts what, because when you're brought up to think that if I'm confronted with something I don't understand, I confront it with my strength. And so when women, and most of the time women happen to be, we've seen a case where the men are also victims of domestic violence, but most times it seems to be on the side of the women because women are weaker. The only way to confront that demon or that witch that's always disturbing you for something, or that thing that you cannot rationalize, is to attack it. And sometimes the attack becomes physical.
Right.
Can I ask you this question? We know that domestic violence is physical, but what of a woman who nags and nags and nags. What kind of violence is that one called?
Domestic violence is not only physical, though, it's mental also.
That's what I wanted to. That's the because if you are a woman that you be you useless man, you can't even provide food on the table.
So,
you can't shake chemical.
Is the kind of, you see, it goes back to the kind of man he is. If he's a mature man with a strong mind, he will find a way to get his wife to stop using those words against him, not physically attack her for that. It's a weak man that knows that I can't use my words to defend myself, so I'm going to beat you up. But a strong man who is mature would find a way to get her to understand you keep using those words with me. Let's take some tweets.
Dada Olowo says, sorry, Nima, says, like, it's not the women in the men's lives that nag and push them with ridiculous, frivolous demands. It's that Jezebel spirit in women. Okay, go on. I just want to read that one.
I hear about this Jezebel spirit. I'm glad our guest is here because we need to. Yeah, go ahead.
Adebayo 19 title says, poverty has a relationship with domestic violence. A frustrated man can do anything. And Abayomi, Paul says, some people are just looking for others to unleash their frustrations on, hence domestic violence. And Abayomi says, it's not about how physically strong you are. I am stronger than any woman, yet a woman engages in violence by slapping and blowing his head.
Let's take a break. When we come back, our guest will probably enlighten us on this question especially, and also help us, how do we deal with the emotional and psychological effects of domestic violence? Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So domestic violence can take many forms: physical abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse. The psychological and emotional social impacts of domestic violence can linger even long after the physical violence has subsided. According to reports, women who suffer domestic violence are at higher risk for post-traumatic stress disorder than other women. How can we deal with the psychological and emotional effects of domestic violence? Joining us is a master practitioner of the neuro-linguistic programming, Mr. Innocent Usa. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much.
Give us your call, you can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag Your View TVC so we can read your tweets. Before we go into the emotional effects and psychological effects of domestic violence, we asked earlier that does poverty instigate or aggravate domestic violence? But there was a few tweets that Waiki wanted to take concerning this, which can actually help this conversation.
Yeah, can I?
Yes.
Omoba Solid Money says, if we say poverty is the cause of domestic violence, then those actors and actresses that are being violated domestically, are they poor? It's a mindset. Mezu says, poverty isn't the root. In recent times, 2 female celebrities were victims. Can't say the families are poor. It's a mindset. And one more says poverty doesn't have correlation with domestic violence. Being violent is a function of upbringing.
So do you agree? Do you think it's a state of mind or based on the financial capacity of the
Yeah, so poverty, yes, if you're referring to the absence of money. But poverty is not always money. It's first the poverty of the mind, which is somebody not even knowing who they are and what their purpose is and all of that. And so earlier, I think you alluded to insecurity. There's a lot of insecurity, especially with men. I'm a man and we deal with a lot of men, a lot of insecurity. And so you want to exert power, physical strength in the absence of not really knowing how to tackle issues and how to tackle challenges.
Now, a lot of people go through, both male and female, go through emotional, physical abuse in their marriages. Now, we've seen the physical effects, the faces, damage. I mean, sometimes the reason the men give sometimes is that you think you're beautiful, I'm going to pour acid on you, I'm going to disform you so you don't look attractive, disfigure you in every way. Now, that happens, and sometimes they heal. But also, more damaging is the emotional. How do we overcome?
Well, first and foremost, what happens to people emotionally is they lose their punch for life, they lose the zest for life, they become withdrawn, people go into depression, people withdraw, they have suicidal tendencies, people lose their self-worth and esteem, they begin to lose, their ability to push in the area of business, being parents, mothers. People are not able to to connect with their essence anymore and to exert themselves professionally and in different areas of life. And what I've seen happen with a lot of people is they just withdraw. I'm dealing with a case right now, and you'll be shocked when I tell you this. I just came from a trip where somebody has been through all of this beating emotionally, physically, and all of that for years, and she is, displaying psychotic tendencies and symptoms right now. I know who the person is. My mother. My dad has been abusive all of our growing up years, and when we became older, we fought, and I'm not ashamed to say this because this is just hitting at our homes and eating people up and eating homes and doing all kinds of
Even
stuff.
now?
Yes, because people don't really change that easily and that much, When we are there, he pretends. When you walk away, he's old, but the major issue here is that people have issues. And because of their inability to deal with their issues, you mentioned that earlier, they pour that out on someone else because they learned how to do that over time. Men are taught to be strong, to fight, to beat women. The recent case in the Ikoyi school, it's the lot women have suffered, But there are several reasons.
Right.
There are several reasons.
Somebody said something to me some time ago. Men are taught not to show emotion. Men are taught not to cry. When you are a little boy,
Absolutely.
and you fall down and you start crying, your mother or your father will say, "You're a boy, come on, keep quiet." So what happens is, as they're growing up, they are storing those emotions,
Pent
and
up,
then they're pent up, and then eventually they might come out in domestic violence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in marriage and.
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. I saw my dad beat my mother year in, year out as a child. And I said I hated my dad. I don't like men who beat women, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? Years later, I had a girlfriend. I was angry. I told all my friends, men don't beat women, men don't beat women. But that's what you're saying. We're created in the image of God and also in the images of all of the things that we have beheld.
Yes.
I saw my father beat my mother. Unconsciously, I learned that how you deal with a woman or handle situation is to beat a woman. But I didn't know that. And so I had this girlfriend. She did an offense. Years later, after my friends used to call me, Oyibo, you don't beat women, you don't know how to handle women like a man and all of that. She got me upset. I was so upset, it touched at my ego, and boom, I went crazy. Pulled out my belt, beat her up. I was 19, 20, 21, I don't remember now. And I was shocked at myself. I knelt down and started to cry. Why did I do this? And I realized years later, getting into what I'm doing today, that I had become exactly like my father that I hated. Got married, never beat my wife. My wife, I was celebrating an anniversary one day, and I was bragging and saying to her, "I've never beaten you." She said, "Yeah, tell you the truth, I'd rather you beat me than say the words that you say to me when you're upset." I asked her, "What are those words?" The words my wife told me back were the exact words my father, guess what, used to tell my mom. That I hated.
They had
It's an
sown
unconscious
seeds
part of
from
you.
you.
Yes. So that you are saying, I will not is not enough. We are a society that is, we are living in denial. We have a lot of people, we are in great trauma that we have never healed from, never recovered from. We just move on and carry on. We just move on and carry on. And what you're seeing with the society today is a lot of backlash of unresolved issues.
Okay, in a marriage, for instance, now, the person at the receiving end, whoever the spouse is, whether the husband or the wife, wants to bring the other party to reality that this is what you're doing. Let's look for a solution. And in most African settings, you don't get a man to say, coach, life coach, what do you call them?
That is factual. That is the truth.
They don't even understand how it is. And maybe in the course of trying to bring a person to see one of them to say, okay, I think there's a problem.
So how do you approach when you have a husband who doesn't even believe in having a family therapist?
You know that you don't defeat the purpose entirely. How do you?
You are going to kill yourself physically. You will be unavailable to tend for your children and to be available for society. Sometimes you need to pull out, maybe not divorce, pull out and get the person to fix themselves. If they can't fix themselves, keep yourself sane, because people are losing their sanity. People are losing their physical health. They're dying.
You mentioned something which I've heard people talk about, and I think it's at the bedrock of domestic violence. I want to deal with this woman.
Yeah.
Where you have people feel that you disrespect me, I will show you.
Where does that come from?
Where does it come from, and how do we treat it? Because it even comes from as low as young children feeling like I must deal, I want to deal, and I'm wondering, because I'm a woman, does that mean you want to deal? Me too, I'll deal.
Where does that come from? Yeah.
Where does it come from, and how do we treat it even right from when they're small?
Everything is learned by example. men, we've got to be courageous enough today to admit that we've got issues. We've got to begin to show our boys. They say the best gift a man can give to his kids is to love their mom, for them to see.
Let them cry.
Let them, and then the men, we need to be vulnerable, we need to be open, we need to be sincere with ourselves. We need to tell you where we hurt, because we're not doing that, and we need to seek help. And please, all of us, when was the last time we saw a man weak, crying or whatever, weak in quotes, and we applauded them? Because we need all of us to begin to say to the man, you know, I'm proud of what you just did.
When you see a man crying, you're just like, eh? Say na man be
this-
the man, no.
Yes.
But I have my husband can be my own husband can be emotional sometimes. There's some times where something pushes him to tears, and I'm wondering, oh God.
Yeah. And you don't know when you do that.
You know, so sometimes now he tries to hide those
emotion.
tears
Mask
because we had to mask it. But in the earlier days, he'll be very emotional. I'm wondering, hey man,
Don't be
but
like
that was
this.
just him.
I've been
But
with my
I have
partner
now
for 10
grown
years.
to
I've never seen him
appreciate-
cry.
Now
Once,
I thank God
like
because my husband he exerts emotion. Everybody in the whole house knows that daddy loves them because he always constantly telling the kids, me, everybody, I love you. So he's an emotional person. That kind of person, I know that we don't have issues when it comes to being expressive. However, in marriages, there's some anger issues where men exert. The only way they know how to manage anger is through that exertion of physical force. How would you advise men to deal with anger issues?
Well, again, it's back to seek help.
Right.
Seek help. Question usually is where? And we always go to the traditional sources of getting help, which is go to your pastor or your imam, you know, and all of that. And, you know, today people are saying there are no therapists in Nigeria. There are.
A lot.
And we have a misunderstanding. You can go to a psychiatrist not because you are mad, to handle emotional issues. You can go to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, to handle emotional issues. It's enough of the stigma around mental health issues. Emotions that are going wild right now. You know, we do classes and people come to our trainings, and we had one recently, 2 days, adults were crying and crying and crying. 2 days. Oh, I lost my dad when I was 16. I never wept.
Thank you for that, because when my mom died in 2000, and my brother never cried, and my brother was very close to my mom, and he didn't cry, and it came out in different ways.
Yes, later on.
He never cried. Then I think about 3-4 years ago, he went to watch this Broadway play. He started crying.
Yes. And you talked with him?
I wasn't there. I heard
that,
see what happened though. He just started crying.
Did he say why? Did he say why?
It was on my mother's birthday.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, because those kinds of movies are therapeutic.
I think your brother needs to go see.
There are lots of professionals.
He cried that he needed to cry.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll deal now with the traumatic experiences people go through after domestic violence. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Welcome back. Let's quickly take Joy. Joy, are you there?
Good morning.
You've been holding on.
Morning.
Yes, thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Auntie Waike, good morning.
Good morning.
Elijah, good morning. I'm first time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Please, there's something I want to say. I'm in a relationship with a man, with a guy. But the way he's behaving with me, when we started, he was okay. But now, the way he started behaving, I don't understand. And each time I told him that I've missed my period, he got angry, he'll be fighting with me. So I don't know what to say, and I don't know what to say.
Are you married to him?
Of course not.
No relationship.
Oh, you're in a relationship. Okay, you're not married. Okay. Right.
Yes, no, I'm not married. I'm just praying to God I'm about to. But each time I told him that I missed my period, he will be upset. And he will use that to quarrel with me. Like now, we are still in quarrel since 3 days ago. So I don't know what to do.
I think you should leave that relationship.
If he's the right person for me, and I don't know.
Well,
Okay, well, if that is going on, Joy, what you need to do is he's been giving you messages and saying that you are responsible for whatever happens when you miss your period. So you should be responsible before that incident happens. Protect yourself and do what you need to do the next time before you get intimate with him or anything like that. And say, I don't want to do anything that will cost me later to have this squabble with you. Protect yourself.
So, I wanted when we talk about domestic violence, we tend to focus on the battery, the physical abuse. But I read a message on Instagram about someone who said at 29, she's in a relationship and she's daily frustrated, that she cries herself to bed daily, thinking that her life is over because of the the guy has never physically beaten her, but makes her feel worthless on a daily basis, that she actually feels worthless. She feels like she doesn't have a life, that if this guy doesn't marry me, nobody would take me. So how do we deal with people that are not being physically beaten, but they are emotionally finished from their partner?
Yes.
Male or female?
The first thing that we do is to get the person to understand who their partner is. Because many times, you ask those same people, they've had very good, sweet moments. So what happened to the person? The partner themselves have been abused and they are in pain. And this is the secret. People in pain pass on the pain onto others for lack of and want of how to deal with their own pain, not because they intend to. They pass it on, they cause harm to others. Because sometimes they in the past were also hurt, and sometimes people can hurt you and say, I'm doing it because I love you. And so a wrong notion of love was passed on to them. And later, I'm telling you, there are times when people were raping someone and like, don't you know I did you a favor, I chose you? It's a twisted thinking, but they have twisted beliefs. We need to understand that.
Let me see, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Morning, go ahead, please.
Hello, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome to the show.
Okay, I wanted to talk in relation to the Lizzie Anjorin's statement of poverty
go ahead.
building to those. Okay, my own father had, I think he had an assessment mentality. You know, he didn't have a job for a long time, and he took it out on my mom. He believed that she was sent to him, you know, to kind of ruin his life, so to speak. So I think when people have that entitlement mentality.
Oh, we lost her.
Oh.
But you hear what she's saying?
Oh, she's still there.
Yeah.
Are you still there, Yemisi?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, they should always do something. He wasn't ready to go out and do his own thing. So that can let people feel that, okay, I'm frustrated, you're not giving me anything, and they are just, you know.
All right. Thank you very much, Yemisi. So is that poverty, Innocent? Is that would you say it's poverty?
That's poverty, and Yemisi is in a good place. A lot of young people didn't know how to handle that, but she's saying that from the outside. She is disassociated, and she's handling it so well, which is what most of us need to do.
I wanted to do with this tweet. That Olowoye says, oh really, providing excuses for women because they are weak. An uncouth man should be reprimanded and not excused.
There are different ways to do reprimand. The thing is that people are doing the best they can with the resources at their disposal. And most of us have very little resources. Where by resources, I mean the things we have learned and the ways we have learned to deal with challenges and problems. So people will do what they can with what they know. But we need to expand our referential index. We need to expand what we know. Wow. We need to learn how to be a man. I had to go and learn how to be a man. I am still in the journey of learning what it means to be a man. Because for most of the time, I was parented by a man who was not a man. You know? And
so I wanted to link this to children, how we raise our children. My daughter yesterday told me a lie, and it hurts me. So in punishing her, I wanted to have a conversation with her, but I was so hurt to get to that point of the conversation. I just never got there. So I just said she should, you know, kneel down. And when I left her there, she started crying that she wanted to use the toilet. As she was going, I was holding on to a piece of cloth. I beat her so hard with it that she was shocked, and she was, Mommy, I'm sorry. All the sorry she was saying, I felt it was too.
How did you find out she told you?
I want to know what she actually did. Because I was watching her, so I know. She actually did. She told the lie because it was time for the 7 o'clock prayer, and she was watching cartoons. I knew she didn't pray. Then I asked her, have you prayed, just to tell her to go and do it? Then she said, yes, I have. I knew she never left there. So I knew she told the lie. I wanted to know what's the place of my own upbringing and, you know, the way I deal with her. Is there any form of domestic violence?
Of course.
you know, to domestic.
I told her.
To batter your child.
Maybe she has a point there. But the issue is that the kids that we have today are a bit different and unique. It appears every generation has a different set of kids that are given to them. But mommy and daddy are coming from a completely different setting. And we are refusing to understand the model of this kids' world today until we understand their model and how we can communicate with them and how. Again, it depends on the rewards you've given her before for telling the truth. My kids get rewarded when they tell the truth, even if they do something wrong. They get rewarded. So if they are afraid of you, of being open and truthful, they would lie. So make it okay for them to say the truth.
Fantastic. We have to round up, unfortunately, but I think I've learned quite a few things here. One, if it's physical, maybe you need to move yourself from there. Yeah. If it's emotional, sometimes it's probably because of where he's coming from. So he needs, and men have been told to get help. Yeah. Seek help. There are family therapists out there. And
give him an ultimatum. If you don't get help, I'm out.
I'm out. And because Mr. A is acting like a goat, doesn't mean he's a goat. He's inexperienced. I mean, the experience he's been through is that he's coming from somewhere where
by a goat.
So you must define who he is. So he's not a goat, but he's acting like a goat because that's the experience he knows. So what we need to do is let him know, expose him to what more information, better information. So you know, okay, you don't have to act like a goat. You can act like a human being. All right. So that's pretty much what else.
And the battalion of children.
Yes, that's all we can take.
I think that should be our domestic violence for tomorrow.
Obviously, Mr. Innocent is always our resource person, so we'll always definitely bring you back. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
That's all we can take on the show today. There's an urgent need to be health conscious. We're hearing of Ebola in Congo. So please be careful. Your sanitizer, continue to use it. And have a lovely day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.